Boom, boom, boom. Oh wait, who you want to do intro? Or you want me to do intro?
I can do intro.
Let's do it.
I'm gonna put my phone on D&D. There
Mm-hmm. Excellent point.
we go. All right. Okay. Um, three, two. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Think Sync, where I think and you sync, or you sync and I think. It really just depends. I'm Rich,
Now I'm Zeke.
and today's a very chill day. It's actually, I don't want to date ourselves. There's no point. I will say though, today was gloomy and a perfect chance to take a nap. So if you
That's
slept,
the thing.
yeah, if you slept, I know you slept well, and I applaud you.
And I'm
How are
jealous
you,
of you.
Zeke?
Well, Rich, I wish I took a nap today. To start off things, but I am doing honestly amazing, astounding, and everything in between. Every day I get closer to leaving my job is a good day to me.
That's a great day. That's a good day. Leave him in the dust.
Hopefully, it depends on what life looks like for me.
Hmm.
Maybe this podcast will be all I have left to my name, and maybe it won't be. Who knows?
Oh, that'll be a great legacy to leave behind. Give the whole world N plus one thoughts.
Yeah, except my
Yeah,
parents, because
they wouldn't. Why not?
I don't know, like something about knowing your parents listen to your podcast just makes it less of a safe space.
Much less of a safe space.
Oh my
It's-
gosh, could
I
you
was just
imagine
talking
your mom?
about that the other day. That was interesting.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, there's just some things I can't tell my. There's just some things I can't or won't tell my parents. I just won't.
Yeah, and your parents are way more open than mine. Like,
Hmm.
could you imagine me trying to tell my parents something like that? Anything we talk about on this podcast, first thought, no.
No.
That's
Second
the end of the
thought,
conversation.
yeah,
No,
there's no second thought. Like,
just
I don't
no.
even know if there's a how that I don't even know how you would want them to receive like the thought. I don't even know, man. I just don't need her to know that I took shrooms. She knows.
Yeah, yeah. Your mom probably listens. Like when you like go to sleep or something, she's like, "I tuned into your podcast last night."
Ah!
Well, hey, moms, just in case,
We love all moms out there. We
as
love
we
the
said
advice.
previously,
Hmm.
don't hide them.
Yeah,
We
don't hide
want your
them.
mom.
I can give him my phone number. I know how to give him a good time.
I won't give her my phone number. I know a guy though. I'll just
What
put
is
it
your
like
guy
that.
gonna do?
What's he gonna do?
Oh, okay.
I'm like Batman. Just signal me.
Mm, mm.
That being said, I have a girlfriend.
Oh.
Oh, so yeah. Sorry.
Oh man. It's interesting that we have such a different relationship between our family and our friends,
Hmm.
and like the things we can and can't tell them. I actually know there's a spectrum of like my friends. There's one friend that like their parents knowing anything is like a recipe for disaster because all they do is just talk about it. They mention the thing to them every day. So how's this person? How's that person? Oh, this is working out. Oh, let me go and tell Uncle Joe that you don't really know, but they gonna know all about you, your personal life. Like it's gonna be
Jeez, that's
cool.
the worst.
What's the worst? I'm like, how do I have family gossip? I don't even do anything
Right. Imagine being the least interacting member of the family, but all of a sudden they know everything about you.
invasive.
It can't be comfortable.
Mm-mm. Do you have that?
I think to a degree. My family is the type where your business eventually will be known, but we also hold secrets really well in this family. Like I can say that without a single doubt that there's probably like 1,000 solid family secrets. I don't know. We're
Pretty
just
cool.
I wish.
Oh.
It ranges from grandma ran over Santa Claus on Christmas Day to Billy ate a sandwich back in 35. So you really don't know where it could be. I just know that like it's there and it's
Mm.
hunting you down.
Yeah, and it's always looming in the background. It's a
basically.
huge it's a huge range. Um, I think one thing I said something along the lines of I don't know my role in this family or like
Yeah,
my like I don't have like a thing that I'm good at within the family. Um, Back a couple of years ago when I was visiting my family in Houston, I said it to my cousin, and my cousin had the most non-response ever that at first I didn't like,
mhm,
but the more I thought about it, the more I also realized how ridiculous that thought sounds in a lot of ways, because we're family. There's no role. No one has to
yeah,
be good at or bad at or have to contribute that one thing to the family. You're just your blood, and we all we all learned and grow, and where we're all blood, and we all share that, and that's all y'all really need.
yeah. Literally that. In the
With that
club,
being
we are
said,
all
I'm the
fam.
funny one. In the club, we are all fam.
Can't just throw those in there at the same time, bro.
That's-
Yeah, like, oh, but by the way, I'm still the funniest. But I respect it. That's what it has to be.
Yeah, they just don't
Yeah.
know I'm the funniest. I never really
I
ask.
yeah. I think that family is kind of difficult to navigate though. Like you talk about things like what it means to be family versus what it means to kind of develop a family and a culture around you.
Right.
You find that sometimes we have people in our lives who are much better than our family at supporting us and bringing out those key characteristics of ourselves.
Mm,
You know, the ones that we want to be acknowledged, the ones we do past the little 12-year-old phase. Like, for instance, mom and dad's where they know you the best because they know 12-year-old you who watched Ben 10 every day and went to sleep with his DSI under his covers, thinking they couldn't hear the very loud Pokemon music playing in the back, you know? But they also don't know you at 16 who discovered like Manuel Kant and is now a profuse, like, I guess you could say, propagator of peace in your community and one who strives their hardest within those spaces that their parents aren't around to kind of broker that peace and that sense of stillness that's so like profound, you know? And I
right.
think that sometimes people that we encounter along the way in these journeys have a better understand like better time understanding what it means to be the current person in the current sense than with your family. I think that there's they know you the best in the sense of cumulative information. It's like
Hmm.
a textbook versus a manual. You know, like if you're looking for a task, they can tell you how to do this task. But if you're looking for a story and you're looking for a bit of information, I think the textbook would suffice.
Do you think there's a point in friendship where you have too much cumulative information? Or do you think when you're a friend, you kind of you gain cumulative information but still retain that I know this person in the moment and understand them? Um, that's same perspective.
Um, I definitely can see room for both. We have had times like you and I, we've known each other since the eighth grade,
Right.
right? Um, we're in the same fraternity, we're line brothers.
Hmm.
You've been one of my
Roommates.
best friends, roommates.
Hmm.
We literally had a point in our life where everything synced up the same way. Hearts broken at the same time, bad days, same time, bad grades, same time. Like we've lived each other's lives almost, you know?
Yeah,
So I think that it's easy from our perspective at least to say, well, eventually a friend is bound to become family. And we're bound to hit that level of like, I know you so well that I can be a textbook for you,
you're
but
right.
I still think that that's different than a parent and
Much
like a
different.
older family figure. That's just I don't even think it's similar. It's the same way your siblings and your parents look at you differently.
Yeah,
It's
much
you,
differently.
yeah. I explained this to my coworker today, actually. I think this is a good example. We were talking, he was saying that we were talking about Columbus, Georgia versus Stone Mountain. He was like, well, I feel like Stone Mountain doesn't really have a lot of racist people anymore. And he was like, there's not even a lot of white people there, blah, blah, blah. And he's
Hmm?
like, I'm like, um, I thought about it for a second. I'm like, well, how do I put this? you know? And I was like, well, I said people can make multiple expressions. So when you are encountering, because the coworker was a white gay man, right?
Oh,
And so, yes, you have a very particular experience, especially when you're as out as he is. I'm sure that he's faced a great bit and great deal of oppression and visible hatred towards him. But I also think that because in some levels it's almost switchable, like code switching your sexuality versus code switching your race is very different.
very.
So it's like my point to him was they didn't show you those sides of them because then it wasn't applicable to you. But if me or my coworker were to go alongside you, we may have been able to see that face a lot quicker than you have.
Mm,
And unfortunately, that does not mean that an area is absolved of its past, but
never.
same token, same ticket, it might be changing. And because you're newer to the area than I am, just like family and friends, maybe you can see that better than I can, you know?
Yeah, that's very poignant. And it calls back to knowing someone better in the moment
Hmm.
than if you're like friends for 5 years, but you guys see each other off and on. It's like, okay, I'm close to this person because they've known me these past week when I've been going through my some of my most difficult challenges. Um, that makes a lot of sense. Those are the kinds of people that deliver hard truths. It's something family kind of has a hard time doing because they've seen you as a kid, they've seen you grow up into the person you are. They may not have a holistic view of who you are. They just saw where you came from and who you are now and those traits that followed you into
Right,
your adolescence, into your adulthood. And they admire that. I see
right.
that and I'm like, yeah, I respect, I've come to respect it a lot more.
Uh,
But your friends will be honest. Hopefully, your friends will be honest and
they
have
should
those
be.
hard truths about you, good or bad.
I think that sometimes, like, I appreciate a hard truth, but there's certain people I don't want a hard truth from.
Really?
Yeah, like for instance, my sister, I think that we
Yeah.
don't get along in that way. So sometimes when it's approached in the wrong like tonal space or the wrong timing, hard truth sounds like insults. And no matter how you swallow the pill, it doesn't necessarily make it the most effective
Mm.
if you get beaten across the head to take it. It's like I think that hard truths as a tactic are great. And there are people who are very qualified to deliver a hard truth. I think that I'm almost known for giving hard truths, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, like I'll sit you down
Sorry,
and be
girl.
like, he does not love you. He does not love you.
You do be doing the hand on the shoulders, like, listen,
Listen.
you're on some
But
shit right now.
basically, but I think that part of that comes from a mastery of interpersonal communication.
Mm,
You have to be able to sit there and really understand the person you're talking to. You can't tell somebody they smelly just because they smelly and expect it to be considered a hard truth. No, you just told someone they're smelly,
yeah.
you
You just
know.
insulted them.
But if you like can really be like, hey, let me pull you to the side real quick. Look, twin, this been a second. And I hope you're doing all well, blah 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 blah. You don't gotta sugarcoat it. I sugarcoat, but you don't gotta sugarcoat it. But be like, man, I think you could use an extra help in the deodorant.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting warmer out here. It's final season. You're getting stressed out. That builds up underneath. I think just an extra layer or three might help you out quite a bit. And scrub under your body to like every crack and crevice, and throw some Axe body spray on if you got to, but cut it out, please. I need my nose to survive. Like
Right.
like
I'm
it
burning over here.
stuff like that. I think is better executed than you're a loser because you're this. I don't think those hard truths are necessary.
No, they're not necessary.
I don't
They're just
condone stuff
douchey.
like that. Yeah, like being if you present a bit of honesty from a place of privilege or power, it appears condescending. Your message will not be received. The
Mm-hmm.
essence behind your intent is malformed. Like if you're telling me something, not because you want me to be better, but you want to remind me that you're better than me, I don't want that information. That doesn't
No,
feel
not at all.
good. And hard truths aren't meant to feel good, but they are meant to push somebody forward. It's criticism. End of the day, that's what it is. And it's
Right.
specifically constructive. So it's like, I think the goal when talking to people and really helping them work through those barriers, whatever they're facing, whatever needs that hard truth, comes from a place of, hey, I think we should sit down and I think that we should talk about this thing. But you have to remember, as the deliverer of the truth, you do not pick, you pick the message, but you have to be respectful of the medium.
What do you mean? Like
That
your setting, like
your
the
setting,
medium
your
of.
tone,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
your actions around it, your body language, what makes this message get carried through. When I say medium, I mean that. Like, how is this message being put to paper?
Absolutely.
You know, does it feel warm? Does it feel cold? Is someone looking out for me, or am I being looked at, laughed at? Where does
Mm.
this put the person? Because especially if you grew up in that African booty scratcher, um, burnt cookie, what's the other one? Oreo, Snow Bunny,
You know,
all that
all that
nonsense, like
BS.
that real playground torture.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to go and just approach somebody who's really been affected by insults for a good bit of their life, something like that, because they'll get defensive.
Yeah, real
You know what
bad.
I'm saying? But I think that's where it pays to be a new friend or a part of, not even a friend, but a bit of a found family. Those people who you've carefully kind of collected over the years and build up that rapport with, and how you guys interact and how you guys develop closeness. um it helps a lot. Like I find that sometimes we find people who we meet in one semester, like maybe what, 4 or 5 months, to
Mm-hmm.
be much better at expressing and articulating and feeling a point with you than someone who's known you their whole life, because they have a set image of you. It's not one that changes often. It's one that's in stone, then cast in iron, and then covered with diamonds, and then embalmed.
Embalmed. Yeah.
You know, it's really hard to alter someone's perception of you once it's there. So it's really, really difficult to accept things in a different light, you know?
That's why I
Um,
value giving people like when someone is a friend with my friend, I
mhm,
love telling them stories about them. Like
yeah.
good stories, bad stories. You're like, yeah, this is like kind of who they are. Especially people that are can be like harder to read. Like, oh
Mhm,
yeah, no, it's just like that. I think that you're reading it incorrectly. I think you should be reading it like this. Like one of my friends, 50 pound, 50 pound hammer curls. She's a hard person to read. I'm not even gonna hold you. Yeah, 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 yeah. She's a hard person to read
super.
if you're actually trying to connect and read her, you know?
Mhm.
Like, because she has that air of not mysticism, but niggatry. Can I say that?
You've already said it, so I'm
I'm
not
sorry.
editing this. Oh man.
But she feels like a bro in a lot of ways,
Mhm,
and like you sometimes can misread her, but I think once you've like really sat down with her and you've like had those like awkward moments between you two and those like actual conversations,
mhm,
and you see something cool from her, you're like, I'm getting a very holistic view of you. And it comes down to communication styles. It comes down to how you are willing to or not even how you're willing, but what you're good at delivering. um I know that I am more of like a support kind of communicator. Like I tend to
mhm,
sit people down and share. So when I'm criticizing, I am kind of criticizing myself and my view of you, and I'm asking questions about if this view can be accurate, more than just me saying I think that this is bad. And sometimes I do that, but that is part of my observation and part of the conversation for me. um and That was the end of the sentence. um,
Well,
yeah,
I get that, it's wholly important just to know how you speak to people. And I think that, like you, it's easier once you tell stories about people and you kind of bring that other side and perspective out. I think when you know more numbers on a piece of die, you know what you're casting.
darn right.
So it's like I can only see the one, but if you know the four, I know that there might just be a two and a three in there as well. And just that extra bit of information kind of bridges you to your next way
Wait.
of learning and installing like information in the other person's head and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Not to sound manipulative because I feel like they did, but don't worry about
But it's
that.
just like gaining context. It
Yeah,
doesn't.
like
You're
people
not
are
trying to
broken.
change them in a way that
Hmm.
like you're not trying to rewrite their history or like rewrite the way you see them. Yeah, I feel you.
Exactly. It's like reading a book from front to finish versus reading purely a chapter. There's just a different experience.
Much different.
Yeah. But along the lines of communication styles that we talked about previously, there's a lot of different ways to know what you are like bringing to the table almost. But I feel like my favorite way is like the MTBI test and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, I know that for me, I take this test about every 6 months or so because I think that it's just really important to kind of like bring it out of you and understand how it can what's what I'm looking for. Just how it can affect your play style, I guess you could say,
Freestyle.
you know?
Yeah.
I know that for me that it takes time sometimes to open up, but if I am looking at my little 16 personalities thing and stuff like that, A, it's a whole lot more reliable than Zodiac, and B, it's just a little more fun to be backed by science. But the way MTBI works, it's also known as the 16 personalities test. You kind of go through a set of questions and it kind of breaks down a bit more of your personality. So for me, I'm an ENFP. That's short for extroverted, intuitive, feeling, and prospecting. It means that I usually embrace larger ideas and actions and reflect the sense of hope and goodwill towards others. Um, and it also means that I have a tendency to branch my leaves everywhere. Like I will do anything. I'm a jack of all trades almost, and it's almost more difficult to find something to stick with than it is to find something to master.
Mm,
Um, so I think it's honestly very fitting. I jumble between the extroverted and introverted thing literally every day, but that's just I think a matter of principle and training. I think
yeah.
everybody can learn to like people and be around people, and having compatibility with people doesn't mean you're just incompatible as a introvert. Like you can be good with people and still want your space. I think that's kind of where I'm at personally.
Yeah. That's the same thing for me because when I do my 16 personalities, I flop between introverted and extroverted. Sometimes, depending on
Hmm.
the day, I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah,
my battery is gone. I'm an introvert today. I'll
yeah.
catch you
I
on the
think
flip.
it's very fun to be an introvert.
It is.
Because I think it takes a little bit of the stress of meeting new people away. Um, when you know you can leave and no one's gonna question why you left. They'll be like, "Oh, that's Zeke. Yeah, he's just an introvert." Like that feels great,
Hmm.
but it definitely helps. Like I remember over COVID, and I used to be one of those people who was scared to order food at the counter, and not because of COVID, just because it's been so long since I was in front of people. I was nervous, like I was anxious about it.
Same.
Um, but then when we get to college, like I made so many friends, bro. I went around talking to everybody. And I think
32 versus 30, bro. 33
yeah,
versus 30? It's ridiculous. That was a crazy
yeah.
day.
Oh, you're talking about the day where we just met all those people. See, you can't just say numbers and expect me to understand. I thought it
But
was a
you did
meme I missed.
understand.
You're right. So basically, chat. Dang it, I said we never say that again. But basically, guys, the way that 32 versus 33 worked was that me and Rich spent an entire day. It was super sunny out, and we went around campus seeing how many people we knew, how many people came up to us, and just said hello. And it wasn't a like, oh, you walk up to them. They had to walk up to you. So it was people coming up to you and being like, "Hey, man," or dapping you up or having a small conversation. And we both ended up hitting the 30 mark. And it was around 32 and 33. And I was just, it was really crazy because we didn't know how well connected we were becoming, so to speak. And it was just kind of like a wake up moment for us because we realized that maybe people do like us, you
Right, isn't
know?
that crazy?
And so we kind of made it a tradition. So like every spring or so, we just play the game, and it's never on purpose. It's never like expected. It's just like a, how many people did you meet today?
How many people did you dap up today? Yeah,
Is that 50?
dang,
So yeah.
I counted at least 15. It's barely been an hour, right? Am I tweaking right now? But
But I also want to touch more on this communication thing, but of a different style. Having
absolutely.
communication style down is good, but also having communication understanding is good. So that's to say that sometimes when you talk to people, you will find yourself liking them less, right?
Yeah.
You start off, you be like, "Oh, Johnny Jones is cool. Johnny Jones don't do no wrong. He's a good guy. He got 3 children, a wife. He love his wife, all that, blah blah blah." But then you find out Johnny Jones may have a different religious take, a different political view. He may be an alcoholic. He may just do something very rash. There's just something under the lines of you don't like Johnny Jones as much anymore. Um, and part of deciding what makes someone a friend is what makes someone not a friend. And I think using those excluding tools is which is what I call things where you find out what you don't like and you use it to protect yourself. I
Right.
think that's just as imperative to a safer level of, like, I guess you could say, communication and stuff, as it is just to make friends and know how you talk. It's knowing bit about people. So it's like, okay, well, Johnny Jones has a different religious take than me. So if I'm going to bring up my religion, I have to be okay with the fact that he's going to challenge that. He's going to want to debate about it. He's going to want to stand by his God or his principles. And if that makes me upset, I should avoid doing it because you can't be mad that someone does something like if you know they. Once you're past
Mm,
that point of understanding that it's happening and it's there, just doing it over and over again is just an exercise in making you mad. But they're not hurt by this. No one's gonna be hurt but you when you get mad or hold a grudge or nothing like that. It is
literally.
purely your energy going out, and they live in rent free. So save yourself some trouble and some time, and avoid those situations. And if you can't, leave.
Leave.
Leave that person. Johnny Jones still got them 3 children and a wife. Johnny Jones don't need you in his life, and you
Hmm.
don't need Johnny Jones if he make you feel that way. But that's just how I feel about that. What's been a time, Rich, where you had to reevaluate how you stood by somebody as a friend?
Mm, great question. Um, the more I learned about my communication style, the more I understood my propensity to avoid conflict and
Hmm.
how much I understood that as a person, I needed to kind of be comfortable with being in conflict with someone in order to be their friend. Um, and I reevaluated my friendship with this person because I thought the last time I had a conflict with them, not only did we just basically not fight, it was like a one-sided fight. It was like it was like, well, I would really like to talk about this, I'm apologizing, but I really sense these things on your end that I would just like to know what you were feeling and like at least get acknowledgement that you were in the wrong in some kind of way, because I'm hurt by this. And instead of even getting a conversation out of it, they didn't even have to like fall down on my knees and beck and call, but they just had to be willing to have that conversation with me. Instead, they were like, "Well, I don't think I was wrong. I mean, you were definitely wrong. But it's okay. It's not that deep, so we can just scrap it." And I'm like, "That's not. That's not. No.
Right,
I'm still in conflict. So
right.
what do you mean we can just scrap it, like this is, about us. And they said some things about, like, they said some things that were in a way trying to negate how I was feeling, saying that it was if this helps for your ego, then that's cool, like, oh, if it helps you sleep better at night or whatever. And I'm like, that's not, is that what you think of me? Like, you think I'm just like this guy that needs his ego like massaged and coddled? But I'm coming to you with very open intentions, and now I'm just getting pissed off. And it really was telling to how I could communicate with them. And
Mhm.
so every subsequent conversation after that, I just started paying attention a little bit differently. I tried starting to have little conflict, and to understand what their communication style was like. And the more I did that, the more I, in the back of my head, I didn't like them. Um, and it was unfortunate because I obviously mess with this person a lot.
Mhm.
Like they're chill. I've known them for like 2, 3 years now, but it's one of those things where I think if I have a conflict with them, I cannot be the I if I have a conflict with them in some kind of way, I just either can't have a conflict with them, or I have to be okay not having the conflict. Because if I want to keep them around as a friend, um, then if I wanted to keep them around as a friend, then I wouldn't be able to. Again, I felt myself being in the wrong, and I did not have any qualms admitting that, but I
Mhm.
also wanted that to be reciprocated because I also felt wronged. I felt like I was being put in a situation that was beyond who I was as a person. That's really frustrating, and if I could go back in time and handle that situation better, I would 100% take the opportunity, especially since I think I understand their communication style a lot better, um, as well as understanding my own communication style.
Okay.
Um, yeah. Did I answer the question? I'm
I
sure it
think
did.
so. I forget the questions most times after we get
Yeah,
into the conversation.
I know, right? Same.
Like I just let it fly. Like once it's once it's been said, it's no longer in my hands.
Yeah, but the
I,
conversation still flows
yeah.
like toes, like big toes on the waves,
Oh,
surfing.
okay. All right. Well, to continue, we talked a lot about communication styles, and we talked a lot about family versus found family. Um, I kind of want to build a little bit more into the side of found family. So from going to family into like communicate and find things like that, I've also noticed that building up those places, those safer spaces amongst people,
Hmm.
right? Like talking about a movable sanctuary, you talk about a collection of friends or folks. I
Yeah,
find it's easier to develop a place where hard truths can be spread safely, a place where your communication and your preferred communication is achieved, and those like minded individuals. I think it's best when they exist in that kind of like chamber of friendship. But I think I'm also noticing that it's almost dangerous to purely have people like you around you. Um,
absolutely.
I think a great example of this is President-elect Trump. You know,
Mm. All he wants is an echo chamber. All he
yeah,
wants is people to tell him that he's right and that his ideas are valid, because they
exactly that.
believe in the same thing, or they want the outcome as badly as he
Exactly.
does. And that's
And
bad.
exactly. And now this episode at least isn't dedicated to a more political side of things. So I'll do my best to steer clear because I do go on rants.
Right.
But I can say that in the smallest sense, that part of the reason that people view him as such a dangerous elected president twice over is that he responds very poorly to criticism because it's so rare in his corner in his council. And if we were to compare that to other people, I think that if we can bring that example to other people, I should say, I think that surrounding yourself by people who only think like you tends to have extremely negative side effects, not only to your talent in an area, not only to your affinity for growth and potential of growth, but also it disrupts your peace. I think when you are often being told you're right, you can never be told you're wrong. And I think that's really, really hard to do in certain circumstances. Like if you're always telling me you're right, always telling me you're right, always telling me you're right, there's gonna be a day that I'm gonna need you to tell me like whether it's a one more drink won't hurt, or it's a, oh well, I think she's into me, or it's a, well, maybe I should get this haircut. There's a lot of different circumstances that require people around you to be able to hold you back as much as they are to be able to push you forward, you know,
Absolutely.
because our lives are only forward, you know? So it's like once a decision is made and once a choice has been made, it's a million times harder to pull back that second than it is to plan for a minute.
Mm,
So it's like having community is great, having people around you is great, having friends and people who respect your social life and your boundaries and all of the above is so great. And I thoroughly, thoroughly recommend having that. But in the exact same breath, I will always be an advocate for those of us who need the no. Even someone as simple as me, my ADHD gives me horrid impulse control.
mm,
That's something that you're well aware of. Like my ice cream addiction, I can eat an entire gallon of ice cream at one sitting,
yeah, I've seen that.
no matter what.
Awesome. It's one of
Especially if
the
I'm watching
best
Fault in Our Stars.
superpowers,
It's delicious, and I regret nothing.
especially if you're watching Fault in Your Stars.
Fault in Our Stars, yeah, the John
Wow.
Green book slash movie. Yeah,
Oh, you
I
don't have to tell me. I'm already crying.
I cry, bro. Is this a safe space?
This this is a safe space.
That book hurt me, and that movie hurt me
Re
worse.
hurt you? Mm.
I had to see it. When
Yeah,
it's
you
your
have to see
imagination,
the
you can turn
downfall.
it off. When your tears draining down your face, you're not going to throw yourself in that situation as hard as you did before. But oh man,
Question,
brother.
what question because of that? Because I know that The Fault in Our Stars is a good book, and
Hmm.
I at least I've heard, and I watched the movie, and I was like bedridden after that. I was like, yeah, I can't see love any. I can't see love without these rose tinted and very wet glasses right now.
Real.
But do you think that the words in the book impacted you more, or was the visuals and like seeing the story unfold from the movie a better experience?
Um, that's like an age-long debate whether or not a book or a movie is more emotionally provoking. I
Hmm.
think that it depends on what kind of watcher slash reader, appreciator of the art you are. For
Mm,
me, I spend a lot of time in books. I go through a book on a weekly, maybe daily basis. Like I got a text on my phone less than 3 hours ago saying the book I ordered is ready and I can go buy it.
nice.
I'm actually very excited. But for me personally, I'll say the book because when I'm reading, it's like I'm watching it all happen in front of me.
Yeah.
It's like I'm just another guy in the room, and sitting there watching it all happen, being unable to stop everything. Not only does it make me feel helpless sometimes, but it also makes me annoyed with my brain because it's like, why is this so detailed? Why am I
Yeah.
able to see everything? And the great thing about reading is that you don't see everything. You see what you want to see. When you watch a movie, they give you the blueprint. It's not like you're gonna know that Black Widow is played by Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah. She's right there.
But if I'm reading just a book and they're telling, or I'll use instead of Scarlett Johansson because there's no Avengers book that I've read. It's just comic books, which is the same principle. I'll
Yeah.
say that with the Hunger Games, Katniss Everdeen, in my head, was not originally what's her name?
Jennifer
Jennifer
Lawrence.
Lawrence?
Hmm.
Yeah, it wasn't it was just a woman who was suffering. And instead of a face, I got the emotion of
Yeah.
suffering
You
and the
got the
emotion
idea.
of hunger and wanting survival and love and the rush that was behind such a timed instead of timeless love
Mm,
and a wish to make something better than you had it. The deaths felt real, the sorrow felt real. It felt very real. But when I'm watching a movie, I know it's not real. I know it's something I can turn off and I can pause it. But with a book, it lingers for me.
it lingers. Yeah. The
You
feelings
know,
linger. The
like
details are there.
yeah, and I freaking love it.
Yeah,
I
you know.
love that emotional trauma bomb every time. I love a good tragedy.
As you should.
Won't even lie. Won't even lie. When your favorite character dies in a book, it does something different to your spirit.
No,
And
I can only imagine.
I
I can only
recommend it.
imagine. The day that I learned that Spider-Man died, I was on a bus.
Mm,
And it was a motion comic. It's Ultimate Spider-Man, not
mhm.
Superior Spider-Man. So, that whole story, he saves Captain America from getting shot. He gets shot in his abdomen, and he has to rush back home and fight the Sinister Six, saving his Aunt May and Mary Jane in the process. He cracks a freaking semi truck over the Goblin's head, and then dies.
Yep.
Fights till his very last breath. When I tell you I sobbed on that bus, I
It's
was that
I blame him.
nerdy kid in the corner looking out the window. What the?
Bro,
Like, bro,
Itachi's death.
bro.
Mhm.
Now, I experienced that in the game. Fighting Itachi and then seeing, bro, that.
Nah, that's wicked. Cause I feel like Itachi's one of the few anime bosses that genuinely had phases. Like,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, that fight was like Inception. It was so good though. Like Sasuke be like, "Yeah, I killed you," and then Itachi being like,
He
"But
said
you
you're
left."
funny.
I'm like, "Oh my god, oh my gosh!" Like, no way. But wow, talk about a distraction. So let's get back to the point
Back to,
here.
yeah, right, right.
And I think
Um,
this is a really good way to actually branch this in.
mhm.
Um, the next point we were supposed to talk about was friends. And that's something that we can talk about as comfortably as we want about anime because that's how me and Rich became friends. We have a third friend, Derek, who saw Rich's Dragon Ball bag and he was like, "Is that Dragon Ball?" And the rest is history.
The rest is
You
literally
know,
history. That's the only part of the story I ever have to tell.
that's it.
Like,
There was no extraness.
I felt so like immediately welcomed and comfortable by them that I insisted on getting change classes. Like, yeah, I was actually in this class earlier and then y'all swapped me. Can I get back in that one?
Yeah.
I like that.
What do you think? Okay, so what was your experience before you made friends at the school? Or did you even have long enough to process it? Like,
At Fulton, I did not have
yeah.
long enough to process. I saw friends and I had a goal. And I achieved that goal. And my goal after that was just to experience with y'all and get to know y'all better. But I have moved schools a decent bit, and I've been to schools where I've had to like redo my friendship. So I went to Grady High School, now Midtown High School, and a lot of people go come from Inman to Grady. So I was so surprised at how many people came and how bustling it was and how many people knew each other off rip skis. And I definitely felt like the outsider kid that was just kind of watching from afar. I'm pretty good at that. I love observing. Like I love kind of posting up in not a corner, but kind of in the conversation, but not saying a word. Just kind of
Mhm,
watching the conversation unfold, laughing with the group, being like, huh? Like, things like that. And once I observe for, excuse me, once I observe for a while, I kind of um find myself adapting to the environment. Um, so when I was first making friends in high school, it was like I didn't have a filter of how much of Rich to show. I just
mhm,
kind of like wing it. I wing it all the time when I'm making friends. I just kind of show as genuine of a reaction as I can, and put on as big of a smile as I can. The day you see me frown is your first day you see me as a friend. And I do that on purpose. Um, Sometimes I'm lower energy just as is, but I'm never not smiling when I'm making a friend. So, yeah. And making friends for me after COVID, like I also couldn't go up to a counter and order food without getting this major anxiety like I was disturbing them. They're getting paid 15 an hour to do it. So,
mhm.
I'm not disturbing them at all. But
And nobody was making 15 an hour coming out of COVID.
no, you're right. They were making like 9.
They were making $11 an hour,
11.
and now it's competitive.
Yeah. And they were just praying at that point. They had to do whatever they could. And then coming into Kennesaw, I was like, my goal was to kind of put that anxiety to the side. And it's anxious work making friends. But it's also interesting because I'm an extrovert and the whole extroverts adopt their introverts is very real. That defined my freshman year. I adopted so many introverts. I love my
You did.
introverts. Yeah, I know, right? I haven't lost contact with all of them, but we're not like as they found their people and they got into their relationships, I fell back into the waistline or into waistline into the background. Um, and I enjoy that because every introvert needs an extrovert friend. Everybody needs that person that will stand up for them because they understand how they think or the troubles that they go through. And I like being that person because everyone's got to be defended.
Okay. Okay. I rock with
What about
that.
you?
Um, well, similar to you, I was in a place where I was constantly being moved around. Um, Specifically my middle school to high school years,
Mm,
I went to what, four different schools? Um, my middle school years, I went to same school as Rich, so that was Fulton. And in Fulton, it was a middle and a high school at the time before it closed down.
hmm.
So we went through eighth grade together, but I also stayed for ninth grade. And at the time, I felt like I was a frog in a well. Like looking back at it, like I was cocky, I was good at what I did. I was on the sports team, I was an SGA, had a pretty good GPA. There was really only but up for me. I feel like if I stayed at FLA and graduated there, I would have probably had I already had a B,
You would
so
have had
a
a what?
3.8, a
Oh
4.0, but
yeah,
then I changed it. I was
that's
like a
true.
3.8, but that was a lot more speaking towards the school's aptitude versus my personal like ability.
Hmm. As well as your
Um,
comfortability in the environment. I mean, FLA
yeah,
was a good place for you and just young men in general to really know if they had the leadership qualities. So,
I agree. And unfortunately I did. But then when I moved to different schools, I went to a public school, I went to Westlake, and I had a really difficult time adjusting to public school. And a lot of it came from personal error. Like the
hmm,
first thing I said when I got there and we were introducing ourselves, they were like, "Okay, well, what did you do over the summer?" I was like, "Hi guys, my name is Ezekiel. Over the summer, I plan to take over the world."
that's hilarious.
I thought that was cool. Not in like a, oh, he's edgy kind of way, just like a, oh, dang. So like, what would you do? And I was like, I think I'd make an amazing like world leader.
World leader, exactly.
I think I'm empathetic to a degree. I have really good like knowledge of self, and I think that people appreciate my presence. And more than anything else, I think I'm awesome. You know, um,
That's all you need to be a world leader.
you would think, right? But instead, it kind of catapulted me into this weird position that I was kind of towards the bottom of the class when it came to just social reasoning. Like I was just me, and I was comfortable with being me, but I didn't really feel like people were very accepting on the other end of me being me. So it kind of led me into a lot of weird situations. Like there was a in my life, people didn't rock with me so much to the point where I felt like I was being bullied,
Mm,
and I think that really impacted and delayed my willingness to accept the school. Um, there were entire points where when I remember one time this girl like literally like rubbed the paper across my face. Um,
bruh.
and it was something weird. I don't even want to get into it for real, but I don't want to get into it. But in general, it made me super, super, super just hating towards the school because it made me feel so outside the school. So knowing what it's like to not have friends in a space, it's so important to develop that web early on. And it's crazy
Absolutely.
because a lot of the people who I went to school with at that like in that time frame and knew me in that classroom when I said I want to take over the world actually find me pretty neat to be around now, and they're pretty accepting of who I am after the character development, after the frontal lobe, stuff like that. But it took some time, and in the time that I was younger and I was growing into my newer self, I had a really, really tough time adjusting to that people would want to like deal with me almost. So when I transferred the next season, like next semester, I mainly did it just to get away from the school, much less to make any kind of ends meet. Like got me of that school. Like I basically failed the grade just to leave because I was in the magnet program. But when I got to my high school for junior year and then the one I was at during COVID and then went to online school, I
Yeah.
realized that it was a ton easier to make those friends and to be the cooler guy when you would experience what it was like to not be a cool
Not be a
guy.
cool guy.
And having that experience made me very sympathetic and like well wishing towards those who had similar experiences. So part of me being who I am, and the reason that people can view me as such a safe space now is because my mission, like yours, was to basically make as many friends as you wanted. Mine was always to make as many people comfortable as they needed.
Mm.
So it was like every year I try to just extend my hand if I can, and that's my thought process about that. Um, it can be hard to find yourself after someone's told you yourself is not enough.
Enough. Yeah. Or it's it's hard to accept yourself after someone has kind of shown you that being yourself isn't enough. Like,
Yeah.
how do I change? Do I add or do I take away
But my
things
favorite
about
movie is
myself?
The Perks of Being a Wallflower. So I think that it's essential to try at least. And if you
That's on
can
my
find
bucket list.
somebody, it's a great movie, bro. It's the greatest movie ever. I love it so much. It makes me cry.
Heard.
So good. It's such a good cry. Oh, that's such an amazing cry. See, now you got me thinking about good movies to cry on. But to continue, if you can be that person to make someone feel better or feel more comfortable, I recommend it. It's not only rewarding, but you don't ever know what life you're benefiting. And sometimes I think that can be enough for major changes in every aspect, but
Yeah.
especially the person who you're helping. I think you can do a lot more good that way. Um, but even still, I think that just the best thing about, and this is what I want to leave off on, but the best thing about creating a safe space for other people is that you have a safe space in itself. Um, Eventually there will be a time where you also have a bad day. And God forbid, if you don't have anyone to talk to, that person you reached out to and you had your hand out for, 8 times out of 10,
It'll be there for
they'll be
you.
there, and that's quite the experience. Because
Hand
Rich
in
is my
hand.
best friend, you know,
Damn right.
and it's like going from, well, one of my best friends. I don't want to make it
I know
sound
what
like
you
he's
mean.
my everything, but I
I love you too.
love you too, bro. But in a realer sense, if we hadn't asked him, "Oh, is that your Dragon Ball backpack?" and he went on about school and we went on about our ways, there would have been hundreds of times where we fell short and needed somebody else. And because we weren't there, we didn't have that experience. We didn't have that help we needed. We could be in a different place. So
Absolutely.
make a friend every day. And if you can't make a friend every day, at least do yourself the favor and gain a follower every month, every day if you can. Network. Build your branches, build your olive
Branch
trees, build your forest, build everything. And when you're done building, build some more on top of that. There's always someone who knows someone. There's always someone who can help you be supported. And you'd be amazed what the power of just literally
being
conversation
there.
can hold.
Yeah. It's crazy how many times people have told me, Rich, I really appreciate your presence and that you were there for me. And in my head, I'm like, well, I didn't do anything worthwhile though. I wish I could have done more.
Yeah,
And being told that what I did was as impactful as it needed to be, that that's also support. That supports me, that keeps me enthralled and wanting to support um everyone that I can. I love
exactly that.
I went from not having a friend group and being jealous that other people were able to make those friend groups to realizing my power of like just having friend groups around me at all times and the
Right.
support system that I didn't even know I had until I literally needed it the most.
All right. But guys, we're gonna leave it off at here because honestly, this episode definitely hit a few minutes over, but
Hmm.
I truly am savoring every bit of it. Want to tell you a few things. Firstly, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube, hit the follow, hit the like button, like literally every single one of those bells and whistles and do hoggies and all that blah blah blah. Do it. Comment, like, subscribe, shout us out if you can. We do have goals too. And we want to see everybody get there. You Follow us on Instagram at ThinkSyncProd. That's ThinkSyncProd, and that's on all platforms: Twitter, X, TikTok, Instagram, all the above. We ask that today you take a moment to text somebody you love. Be like, "Hey, I love you and I appreciate you," and see what happens. Don't let it all be the same person. But if I get 100 responses in my phone saying, "Hey Zeke, I
Right.
appreciate you and I love you too." But
I love you too.
but in genuineness, thank you for always listening and tuning in with us, guys. We really appreciate the love and support. We didn't know how this would go, but we were talking today about how much we enjoy the pod versus when we just started and how much posting helped us. And so, thank you once again.
Yeah. Thank you
Oh,
for giving us the vision. And now I want to be consistent. And
yeah,
I'm getting more creative with this every day. So I mess with it.
yeah. So, as always, guys, think it's sink or swim. I'm your host Zeke,
And this is Rich and
and thank you
Toodaloo.
so much.